So remember, you can tilt the horizon line. It can be like that as well. If it was like this, I could also pretend that there is another object vanishing outside the page. Uh, is it possible to have something like this? So both vanishing points outside the page, yes. It would look like this. You would look like this. So vanishing point here is outside, and the other one is also going out like that. There is a dotted line here, of course. And then, of course, you can keep adding other stuff, like you know, sketching cylinder here. Maybe what if I want to sketch like a trailer? I use the same vanishing point. Remember, if you want to do a vehicle or something with wheels, the two cylinders need to share the same vanishing point because they have to be parallel. Now, on top of this, I could sketch maybe something like this. So this could be the wheels under this big volume. Great. Maybe you can add the lights, so I could sketch a cylinder here. Axis. It doesn't really, this looks more like a tank more than lights, but whatever. I think this should be a little wider. Okay, so in this case, remember the vertical lines are parallel to the, remember that the projections, you decide, where is the projection of this box? Well, I can decide that the projection is here eventually. And in this case, it would be a super big box, super far, which means a very light rendering. If you want to render that very dark, then the projection would be aligned with the tank. Same thing with this. This box could be, the projection could be right here. In front of the tank, which means that I'm placing this box next but in front, so focal point is here. But if I change the projection and I imagine the projection to be very far, like here, it's going to change dramatically. Super light rendering. So remember that how do you do a projection? You have to bring down the base vertically, and then using the same vanishing points, you have to imagine to extend the box to the ground. But you have to use the same vanishing point. So again, if you are sketching flying objects, you have to decide where is the projection. If it is very close to the horizon line, it means that it's very far, so light markers. If the projection is close to the viewer, of course, darker values. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Remember, you can combine primitives. I would like to see at least you practice with each of them. So let's don't forget cones. So axis, what if I have a flying cone here? So axis, 90-degree line, base, maybe a wider section here, and now I think it's okay. Maybe a little wider, like that. Again, where is that cone? Is it very far or is it in front of the tank? You have to decide that. If you want it on top of the tank, to decide that its axis touches the tank here. Of course, with a bigger section because we have to project. So probably the projection would be here, and now it goes outside, no worries. But at least we know that they are aligned. But I could also decide that the projection is completely different, and it happens to be here. In this case, it would mean that the focal point will become the cone, because it's among these 1, 2, 3, and 4 objects, it is the closest to the viewer. Let's try to render this real quick. So this would be my composition. What is the first thing that we need to do? Light source. There you have to pick an angle. I am going to pick like this angle here. Remember, if you pick a very a horizontal angle like this, keep in mind that the horizon line is this, so I was choosing an angle that was probably parallel. With these very long shadows, sunset, lot of very long dark shadows. With these shorter shadows, I don't know, I think it's something in between. The first thing that I suggest is to start naming the parts of the object. So for example, light, well, we need a direction as well. I'm taking something. So I'm expecting the shadows to go in this direction. Okay, great. You know, I'm going to turn the angle even more. So almost
I have a quick question. Can we use multiple perspective points?
well, yes. Do you mean vanishing points?
Yeah, like different vanishing points for different objects.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Remember, if you do it, you are basically telling to your viewer that in the top view, all those objects won't be parallel. So
Mm,
yes, it's possible. Remember, only one light source, not multiple sources. Okay, great. I'm going to give it a try to render this real quick. Uh, I want to add something here. Let's imagine that this is done like this. So I'm introducing a box with this weird form like this. Okay. We haven't done it, but problem. Of course, I need to figure it that line as well. So remember, this should be very light. So my sketch isn't looking so great. It should be cleaner. And then the next thing that we need to do is to find out with darker lines which object is closer to the viewer. We know it's going to be the cone, so I'm going to fix my cone. Okay, great. So that's my cone. I'll work on this. Okay, there we go. This is the front. I have this cylinder here, so axis. It's gonna be darker. Axis 90-degree line here.
Professor, I'm not
Yes.
sure if I was a little late, so I'm not sure if you already talked about it, but for drawing our guidelines, do we have to use China marker or can we use like a lighter pencil?
I encourage you to keep using the China marker, but I mean,
Just cause
if
like
you
mine
are,
were kind of dark last time.
yeah, try to use the marker, and then
Okay.
for next class you can use the black Prismacolor, but the assignment should be done with China marker.
Okay.
So basically, I'm connecting all the all the lines, and I've also done a mistake here. So it basically does something like that. Yes, this was right here. This does this, these two connect like that, so I don't have this line there. And of course I have to change this as well. Okay. So I have a couple of cylinders here, so axis 90 degree. Degree here. Let's put them together. Okay. There we go. I'm gonna work on the other one. Axis. Okay. I think I only need to fix this couple of cylinders here. Excuse me, boxes. And then we have this interesting volume right here. This is also a visible line. Okay, great. I can add maybe a couple of mountains just to show that. And maybe I'm going to add a sphere, fine sphere like that. Okay, I think we have it. Let's render real quick. So light is coming with this angle and this direction. So it's not too far from the sunset scene. So what are the number one? Number one, all the bottoms are always number three. So number three. Number two, what about the cone? I take the projection of the cone, which is going to be here. I put the direction right here. So I'm expecting this to be the part of the cone that will receive the number one. I put it up, and basically this is telling me that the number one is going to be basically here. So number two, number three is to the back. All this part of the vehicle, number one, number two, all the bottom, number three, the side here kind of dark, two. These cylinders, well, the back of them, it has to be dark, number three. The face is number one, number one. Same thing, number one, two, three, and the face here, we don't get to see it. This sphere, probably number one here, two and three is to the back, and if I want to add something here, this could be also a cylinder. So number one, two, and three to the back. Mountains, number 1, 2, number 1. I think we have it. Okay, great. So the line work should be something like this. If you do it with China marker, probably will look more like this, probably. And now I remember we need to see the construction lines, so leave them. Probably a little cleaner than mine. And now I'm ready to attempt the rendering. I think I start from my focal point, because I know that here I can use that has to be the part that has the biggest amount of contrast, and then I have that from there. I know that from there I have to keep the markers lighter. Probably number 4 here to the side, and then it switches to something darker, and then we know that right here should be very dark towards the back. The bottom, also the color of the paper is expected to be I forgot to darken the background a little bit. Okay, I think now it's better. Newsprint is usually kind of dark like this. Okay, what happens to the bottom of the cone? The bottom of the cone is very dark. It's number 3. Okay, great. So I can just render it like this. Maybe darker here, and this part a little lighter because usually it gets a little bit of reflective light. That's my cone. Now I'm gonna keep going to the next object. I'm going to work on this whatever it is, the object, the vehicle. So number 2, we expect to have like a number dark values, probably like a 6 or a 4. The number 1, I don't put any marker. The number 3, very dark. In this case, number 2 and 3 are probably very similar because I'm doing pretty much a sunset scene. But it's important to show that they are different, so don't do them looking the same, otherwise it's going to look not so three-dimensional. Okay, great. I'm gonna number one, no markers. I'm gonna work on the cylinders here. Okay, and then I have these ones as well. This was behind the object. Okay. Again, the back is very dark. It should be like a 2 or going towards maybe a 3. This one is the same, but check the scene. This cylinder is further out, so if I want to make a good three-dimensional scene, I think it's important to render it lighter. because that starts to be far away from so basically I'm keeping these darker than that. I'm going to work now, well, where is the projection of this huge box flying? I'll keep it very close to the horizon line. So this is going to be a very big and far object. Instead of, I'm considering the projection of this box, this one, in front of the vehicle tank. This number 2 will be, so I have to put the good contrast on this. Even a little darker. The bottom very dark. Okay, great. Now let's work on, well, I was forgetting the 2 cylinders. And this one. Light is coming from the left, so what part of the cylinders is facing down is this, and this is facing up. So it should be something like this. But because this is closer than that, I can darken it up a little more. Okay, great. Now it's time to work on this big box. It's far. So the number 2 is probably going to be a marker, like a number 2 value. What about the number 3? Same, I cannot use a dark value, otherwise it's not going to look something far away. So I will still use a very light gray, maybe just a little darker, but still very light. It's the only way to communicate distance. What happens to the sphere? Well, it looks like it's a flying planet. So again, all the number 2 and 3 will be just number 2. Maybe I hit twice here, but no more than that. The thickness of the I don't know how to call that, also very light. It's a cylinder, so I use vertical strokes, no marker. The bottom is number 3. But it has to be light. See, the thickness that I did is probably even too light, but I think it's okay. We're gonna leave it like that. Speaking of these mountains, if they are like pyramids, I'm expecting the number 2 sides to have maybe a couple of number 2 strokes. The same has to happen to this. Well, this is probably the back, and same with this. So again, probably number 2. Okay. I think we are ready now to, we have to do 2 things now, shadows and the gouache. I'm gonna do the gouache first. Which one is the closest object? Is the cone. And then there is this box. So the gouache, I'm taking my nice brush, prepare my white, and I'm literally going to add the white here. And now you notice that this has become a very powerful focal point. We are going to work on this. Again, they are very close, so I can add some white like that. Okay, the tank is still not far from the 2 objects that I just did. So I think it's good to put the gouache on the tank as well, otherwise it gets... I think the focal point should be a combination of the 3 objects, the cone, the box, and this tank. So I think it's good to add white here as well. They work well together. Maybe, you know, you don't do a super solid white as here, but there should be white. The 2 faces, well, the big one can be white. The other maybe just white on the top a little bit, but here a solid white. Okay, great. And I'm going to wait to work on these number 1s because there might be some shadows, but I am not going to put the white on the huge box. I think well, just to make it, if I have a white pencil, it wouldn't be bad to still do a little bit of number 1 like that. The same would be pyramid. So no solid gouache, but you know, some light layer of, or with the pastel, just to keep it it just helps to read the whole composition, otherwise maybe some parts get lost. And of course, this part also would receive a little bit of lighter values. Okay, so I have built my form basically with the rendering. It kind of looks like this object has more contrast than the big one, so I think I will consider it at this point something closer than the box, because I mean clearly there is a lot of contrast, so it can't be. It looks like it's closer than the pyramid. This is what I'm trying to say. Okay, how do we cast shadows? So my suggestion is before you do any rendering, take a pencil and super light try to draw the shadows to the ground. So what I'm going to do is I start from the easy objects, so like this big box. So the projection is here. So I am going to, it has to be this rectangle here, the projection. So the direction goes in each of the four sides, and it will go probably kind of like this. The angle is this. So it should be something like that. I'm just going to use these and the last one. So it looks like the shadow of the box should happen here, because these casts, the point is here, the point is there. So it has to be included here. What would be a proper form? I should, intersect everything, but now that I have no time, I'm just going to guess that the upper part casts a rectangle like this, the lower part a similar rectangle. I connect them, so I think this could be a rectangular shadow. And if it's not a rectangle, it will be an hexagon. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know if it was in this class, but I'll take the opportunity right now to show you something. Another interesting thing of shadows is this. Basically, if the visible outline of the object is made of 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, the shadow should also be something like this. So you can sketch an hexagon. Okay, great. Let's keep going. Let's try to do the cone. So cone, I'm going to take the top with that angle, kind of like that. The projection is this. In the center, I'm expecting something like that. You know what? It goes out of the page. Okay, I change the direction on purpose just because I want you to see the shadow. Let's pretend that they meet here. Okay, so the vertex is here. And then I should take, I have to take a couple of points here, bringing them down, intersect them, but let's just use, so that's the vertex. I'm gonna take a lower point here because I need the space. Remember, we need the space from the upper part and the lower part to understand where the shadow will be. So that's why I'm taking, using the angle, that's the tangent. If I bring that to the ground, it will go here. And now I can easily sketch tangent to here, an ellipse connecting with two tangents. And basically I'm expecting a shadow that will be not too different from this. Okay, great. Now, so we have done the box, we've done the cone. Let's try to do these cylinders. So with that angle, we are going to touch the two tangents of this. We are going to put the direction on the base. The direction looks like this. They touch here, they touch here. It looks like it's basically parallel to this side. So this is kind of an extreme scenario where we can expect a shadow that is pretty much a rectangle. So this is all shadow. Okay, let's try to do this one. Direction angle is that, so the other side would be the same. They connect like that, so we expect this shadow here. And now the difficult part. Well, first of all, I want to finish this. So I have decided that the projection of this is now like, is not in the sky, but this is literally flying above the ground. So I can use this as the center. So angle of the rays of the sun is clearly this. The direction is pretty much this. So the sphere will be here. And then outside we have something else. Again, I'm going to touch the outline of the objects. So this is the shadow of the sphere. But the shadow of the other component is shorter. Says it has to be this. Let's attempt the shadow of this. Okay. You know, I have done a mistake because I didn't notice that the projection of the box is basically here, and I wanted this planet to, you know what, let's pretend the planet is projected here. And so the same shadow will be actually, has to go, it will be here. Okay. Okay, the shadow of that huge box, though, goes, well, it doesn't even, it's not going to be inside my composition because, check it out, if I touch the vertices, and the projections, yeah, it's going to start here, and it's just going to go from here outside the page. I am going to pretend that my composition is bigger though. So let's extend this. So basically, this is the horizon line that keeps going down. These are pyramids. And I want to cast the shadow of the big box. So we start from this. Remember, the quick ways to take the two maximum, the two vertices, one to the very left, one to the very right, that are going to show you basically where that shadow will be. I project it to the ground. This goes here and the other one goes here. Direction for both is this and this. So this is going to be intersected here. And this pretty much here. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I am going to randomly sketch a form that contains the 7 sides. Something like that. It's so stretched that it's pointless to do it accurately because nobody would notice that. So for me that works. So I have sketched quickly the shadows. Now it's time to do the difficult part. This. I know. You know what? Yes. Before that, we have to basically cast the shadow of everything here. This whole object. Cast the shadow and the 2 cylinders as well. Okay, great. I am going to touch, I show you in red basically what I'm going to do now. I have to cast the shadow of this, the shadow of that, the shadow of this. Remember the 2 maximum. And then I think this, and this, and this, and this. And maybe this as well. This as well. Okay, so we need to project this big object to the ground. And now we have to decide, is it overlapping perfectly their cylinder or does it end before? It's up to us, but we can pretend that it's aligned with the cylinder, so it will end here, and this will end here. So they are aligned with both cylinders. Both cylinders are they pretend to meet together here. So for both points, the direction will be this and this. I have to put an angle here. So this goes down. I'm gonna use red. So at that point, so this creates an intersection here. The one a little bit higher will be here. This, bring it down, probably is expected to go here. And this one is expected to go probably most likely here. So I try to use a blue, so we will follow. So basically I am noticing that the upper part casts a very long shadow that it's, let me make a new layer on this. So that part casts a very long shadow that is just like a big rectangle. That's the shadow of the whole object. I know there are other components, so, but they are going to be inside this form, so I won't be able to see them. Let's add these two. I am projecting down the two cylinders. Where do they touch the ground? So same line is here, and this is the same line as the cylinders here. They are aligned. Actually, no, they are way more inside, so probably here. The two angles, I'm just guessing, but what I'm going to do is to add to the blue shadow a couple of rectangles, trying to imagine where they should end, and they should end one here and the other one here. So you notice that they totally fall inside the shadow of the big box. So I'm not gonna do anything really. If I want, maybe I can put something here. Another interesting part is this. So I tried to check what happens to this point here. So the projection to the ground is above the cylinder of that point. The angle on that is this. The direction of this is probably... So this side casts a little shadow on top of this. I know that the shadow ends here. That whole shadow goes on top of the cylinder, so that the form of the shadow has to be this. Because remember, shadows always follow in terms of form the surface that they find. So here I'm gonna do the same. I know that it has to start here, and then we should project all of the next points. Each of these needs a different projection. Each projection is going to go down like that. For each of these, I should project in the plane. It's a pretty complicated job, but we know that this can be believable. Okay, great. The last thing, that the shadow of the huge box overlaps here this cylinder. So there will be shadow here as well. Okay, I think we are done. Now it's time to render all these shadows, keeping in mind that some will be some are shadows of objects that are very close, some are not. Okay, this is all shadow. There will be a shadow on top of this. There will be one here. There will be another here. And I forgot, well, no, there won't be anything there. I think we are done. Then there will be this one. Another one here that is very big. I think that's it. Okay, so I'm gonna turn them on. So shadows, I can use them to exaggerate the communication of the focal points. So I think I'll keep them kind of dark here. And little by little, I am going to make them lighter. Something like that. I was also forgetting that these has to be, of course, rendered darker. And from what I noticed, I also believe that I can, if I really want to make a powerful focal point, I think this whole area can be darker, in my opinion. I think it's it should be a little more powerful. Yes, that's the idea. So to these, and at the end, maybe I can take some white pastels and adding a little bit of white here, so I really exaggerate where the light is coming from. Yeah, like that. And remember that, oh, I was also forgetting this. The two faces here, which will have the same, dark value. Remember that focal point means also details, so you can I can pretend that there is some extra content, so I can communicate maybe. See, it's not in perspective though. I have to be careful because the perspective is between these two lines, so I have to fix it. Even the height is not in perspective. That's the problem when you do a tilted horizon line, that sometimes you forget that you have to stay perpendicular to that line and not to the paper. What marker should I use? I would stay light because, I mean, of course I could do a full black, pretty great focal point, but the full black would make sense in my opinion if that's an empty volume. If it is like a sticker on the surface, it receives a lot of light, so it cannot be solid black. Black lit by the light becomes gray. So in my opinion, this, I like it a lot. I think it works very well. It's a solid number on the surface. But if it was empty, and we can do it, so option number 2, I imagine that to be a negative space. So it's like a negative extrusion into the object. If it's a negative extrusion, the light is not going to be able to enter, so I have to expect this is all shadow. And of course, the more I go inside, the dark is going to be. But then to do a good job, I think we should also show that each of these, in perspective, of course, is a surface. So how do you do that? I would try to render each of these separately, I don't know, from very dark to lighter, and maybe on top adding a little bit of white pencil there. I would do the same thing for this. That's a negative cone, cylinder, so something like that. So you notice that now it's a little bit more three-dimensional. Am I done? I love in my drawings to add the highlights. So what could be a good highlight? Well, light is still coming from, it's almost sunset, but it's touching the top of the objects as well. So I think we can do something like this with a gouache, so a very thin line. And I like to put the little highlights. In sketching, those are called the bling bling. Oh, it's funny, but that's exactly how they call them. This also receives the... Do you have to put 2? Well, you can put as many, but clearly if you start doing stuff like that, you know, probably looks something different, but whatever. There is also we can also have the heart-shaped bling bling. There we go. Wow, look at that. This was great. I'm gonna give myself an A for that. It was brilliant. Yes, we are pretty much done. Eventually, you know, I can show that there is a little bit of light here on top of this before that shadow. So once you're done, you can refine just a little bit your composition, you know, forcing some of the values if you believe that you know, it gives some extra drama to the drawing. So even here I'm gonna put some white gouache, go back right there, but I don't do it here. because this cylinder is way closer than the other. Yeah, maybe the same thing here. And probably I do not like that black line. And I can easily take the end, you know, a darker marker and build, pretend that there is a negative space there. So that gives me the opportunity of adding other details, so black and white. Great. I'm done. Now, I really like to frame it. So some people, okay, let me change. Let me change the. Okay, some people like to add some frame to all the composition, so you can tape some black tape or go on top of with the markers. I think it's cool. It gives a nice sense of it looks more refined. And of course, signature. In fine art, usually the signature goes to the bottom right. Just make sure to sketch something, you know, that reflects you. Clearly, if you sketch a signature that it's like this, I mean, it isn't so bad actually, but I mean, don't sign like this, right? Probably the one that I did is kind of invisible, so it's too small. So a little bigger. It kind of balances the composition. Yeah, I think we are done. If you want to, you know, maybe what we could add, maybe if it's a little weak here, you can go back with some markers and darken a little bit the pyramid here, and also to introduce a shadow that probably the pyramid would cast on top of the other pyramid. So that probably, you know, you feel a little bit of the space here, and you can always go back to this and darken it up a little bit if you believe that it's not powerful enough. Just maybe a couple of strokes right there. Speaking of scale, if this huge box is very big, it wouldn't be a bad idea to sketch with some gray, not black though. You have to keep lighter values. Pretend that there are, I don't know, maybe some, let's imagine that there is a negative cone here. Section-wise, it means this. How would we render a negative cone? Well, I have to always think what part of this object is facing to the light source. of course, this part is facing up, this part is facing down. If I notice, I'm keeping it very light because I want to communicate that the object is far and it's very big. That's why I'm doing a little detail. That's negative, so less light that can enter. So I still keep it very dark. I mean dark, but not black. I think this is working now. And if you want to balance the composition, maybe you can add a couple of spheres. So again, I think it works now. So if you notice, I build, probably this is a 4 pages composition. So you can do 4, of course. I think actually 4 has a better proportion than 3. I was doing 3 because people, were complaining, oh, it's too much. But, you can do 12 pages if you guys like. I encourage you the 12-page composition. I think you get an idea of what a focal point means, right? Not everywhere. There is an area that really collects all the contrast. You notice how I am casting shadows, but I'm not becoming... by the way, I forgot to render all the shadow here. I was missing this. So there is a shadow was this. Of course, this is all shadow. This is shadow, this is shadow. Okay, now it makes more sense. Awesome. Any question?
So it's just the one composition, but it's 3 or 4 pages together, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it, guys. Be creative, have fun. So again, line quality, perspective. Remember, there is only one horizon line. So let's review what we need to have here. Line quality, perspective, only one horizon line. What else?
Guido, I actually have one question.
Yeah.
So how would we do, like, I don't know, a cylinder or a not rectangle, but like, well, a polygon, that is like tilted in the, like, not in just 2, but like 3 directions, like if it was like coming to us.
Yes, that's okay. That's like the cone coming towards you, right? Yes, if the object is coming, no, yes, you should show me the example. But for example, if the object is tilted in the space, it's a little tricky. You have to build a virtual vanishing point. This is possible. So you can do things like this. is absolutely doable, because remember, every time in the we use the horizon line because we pretend that all these objects are parallel to the ground. Like if I'm sketching a flying aircraft and I do it like this, I'm pretending the aircraft to be parallel. If you want the aircraft to be, you know, not parallel anymore, like this, it's doable, but you need to, because these two lines are parallel to each other, you need to decide a virtual vanishing point. So it's possible, but if you do it, show me what vanishing point you are using. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, thank you. And can I do the guidelines with like a normal pencil and then go over the objects with the China marker? So I don't have like China marker lines all over the page?
Yeah, normally I don't let you do it, but yes, if it helps, you know, to achieve something great, you can do it, of course. Yes.
So you're totally cool with like just a abstract form composition as well, kind of like this, or like, you know, just if we don't want to come up with a scene that introduces every object, just like a abstract like composition.
Yes, yes, this should be abstract. We have other assignments to explore different things. For now, I want you to stay, you know, keep it easy, because it's very important. I want to see you controlling that light source properly.
Right.
1, 2, and 3. So I think there is already a lot that you can do, so I don't want you to escape the boundaries.
Right.
For the first assignment.
I was thinking about coming up with a scene, but I feel like it's easier to show off every primitive with like an abstract composition rather than a scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you, really. I think you can build a scene with primitives. Why not? I mean, I've seen people doing it.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a little bit more work. But why not? Remember, rendering means 1, 2, and 3, but also shadows. And I would include the focal point always in the rendering. Focal point. Then what are we looking for? Composition. Composition doesn't mean a difficult story, difficult concept. It means that there is a good use of empty spaces and filled spaces. You can have a very simple design, but a great composition, right? Composition, and something that we care a lot is the signature. I put it at the very end because, of course, it's not more important than the other 4. It's the less important, but it really tells that it's your artwork and not somebody else's.